Hello everyone, welcome to the Redwood Fortress, a beautiful redwood base nestled around very tall trees. It's really easy to get overwhelmed by how large this base is at first glance, but I broke it down into smaller areas so that it would be easier to build one stage at a time. I've included a list for each section so you can know approximately how many parts you're going to need. The first thing I'm going to be doing is laying out the ground floor or the foundation for all of the sections we're going to be building. I recommend doing this, but you don't have to. It'll just make it easier if you do intend to build every section and not just one or two. This base was really built with the mid-game in mind. It's got a lot of really good places to store both items, as well as all those large industrial machines. It also features a great place to raise dinosaurs, and has a prime location right by one of the most important caves to farm your blueprints, the Swamp Cave. So you're going to be able to get in there, get blueprints, as well as farm cementing paste. So working off this little island here, the first thing you're going to want to do is clear everything but the big tree in the middle. After that, it's crucial to line this part up here, as that's going to be the front of the build. And if you're off by a little bit, it's going to tilt things in a way where they're not going to line up the same way as I'm doing them. That's not going to really matter too much if you opted to put this build somewhere else, but if you did want it in the same location, in the same spots where I did, you're going to want to try and just line that block up in the same way that I did, using the front of that tree. And consider that the front of the build. The base of the main building starts out as a large circle. The circle is really just going to be a multi-length shape, with each side ending up being a length of 4. But you can see from the diagram how many squares and triangles you're going to need in order to pull that off. And if you need to pause the video and go back, feel free to. I numbered how many you were going to need so you could help keep track of it. Something to keep in mind here is that I'm using a combination of both ceiling and foundation tiles. You can really use any combination of them. You just have to make sure that you have the structural support in place to be able to place it down. And as you get towards the edges and you lose land to place the foundations on, you're going to want to switch to the ceiling tiles. Then you just have to add some pillars wherever the structure needs a little bit more support. New pillars are going to have a ton of ways to place. You can see here that I have all different places that I can place them in the center and on the edges. Typically, throughout this build, I'm going to place pillars on the corner of square foundations and ceiling tiles. Just like that so that they line up with the edges. I'm going to be considering anything facing towards the beach across the little lake as the front. So if you're in that direction, you're the front. So this next section is going to be off the right side of the circle. We're just going to be laying down the foundation for one of the bridges. For every 2 squares out that you build, you're going to need to go ahead and add a pillar. This way you can continue building the bridge. Then you'll keep doing this until the bridge is 10 squares long. You're going to do this to the front section as well. Coming off the front, you're going to make an identical bridge. Just put in the foundations. Then you can begin to add a couple more squares on the side. This is going to give us shape later on. And there we have it, our bridges, both of them. The one for the front as well as the one for the side. Up next, we're going to work on the foundation for the dino area, or the Dino Tower, as well as the location for the crafting tower. The dino area is going to branch out from a bridge, That bridge is going to be 4 in length, and then it's going to move to some triangles just to decrease the width of the bridge so that we can make a slightly smaller circle for the next area. This circle is going to be 3 foundations wide on each side as it goes around. And again, I included a diagram counting everything so that can help you keep track of it. But instead of working from the middle this time, I'm going to be working from the outside edges and then filling it in. And once you have the outline done, all you have to do is start filling it in. In this case, I opted to add some glass. This way later I could look down at the frog pond and look at my frogs. If you're short on crystal, you don't have to do this. You could just keep with stone, or you could even just do a small part in the center out of glass. That way you can also see the frogs. This may be something you really want to consider doing, especially if you don't have any walls up yet, because glass does not offer a lot of structural support at all. I'm not sure if it's just as bad as wood, but it might be just as bad as thatch. Pretty much anything can damage it. It's important to keep in mind in this build that the glass is purely aesthetic, unless you're playing with some sort of mod that offers you a better glass option, but also offers you better defense as well. And if you are going to make the frog pond, the pillar placement here is going to be important. This is where we're going to go to put the walls once we do eventually go to make the frog pen. Now at the top of the build, we're going to do the crafting area. The crafting area's circle consists of 2 length sides, and it is pretty simple. It's probably the easiest one to build out of all of them. You don't have to do anything special with the pillars. It lets you put them down very easily. Now it's time to actually start building structures. I'm starting with the bridges. Both bridges are identical. There are some small changes that you can make to the end of each build that I'm going to include at the end of this section, and depending on which bridge you're building, you're going to want to use that alternate ending. Here's a very important part. Putting these little quarter walls here, it's what's going to make it so that we can offset the roof and make it hang over by half a block. This will give our roof a little bit more definition. So you're just going to want to add those there. Add some quarter ceiling tiles as well. Then you can snap the roof to there. We can finish the rest of the roof after adding these triangle walls here. We're going to use the same trick as last time with the quarter ceilings, putting it on either side of the triangle wall. We're going to be doing another similar trick here. You're going to be able to snap the right angle triangle piece to the existing roof there, and then put it out a little bit further. That way it looks like it's coming in and we have it overhanging a little bit and everything just sort of lines up there. We're going to be doing this a few more times to extend the roof. Just keep an eye out. If you see it and you need to repeat the video, feel free to just go back. A bunch of those pieces can actually be removed. Just be careful which ones you do remove. Some of them will just make your roofs come right back down. And don't forget, you are making 2 of these bridges, so you're making one at the front and one at the side. But we've reached to the part of the video where both of those should be done. Next up, we're going to do the differences between the 2 bridges and how to finish them. This is for the front bridge. We're basically just gonna make it a proper entrance area. And this one's for the side bridge. The side bridge, you can either put a staircase here depending on what your power situation is like, if you can actually reach over here with power, and you could put a staircase here instead. I played around a little bit with elevators here. Originally I was going to do 2 of them, but I ended up deciding just to do 1, so disregard the 2 elevators there. Those wall pieces are also unnecessary. I ended up just going with fences there. Next up, I'm going to work on the main area. The main area is divided into 2 sections. The lower section, or just sort of like the main section, then above that is also the treehouse. You're going to need a staircase to get you up to that 2nd floor, especially if you're building without any way of flying. So you might want to begin with that. It's pretty safe to assume by this point, if there was a pillar somewhere, I probably put a light underneath it. I do not like how ugly these stick lights are, and I am definitely spoiled by mods, which conveniently just give us sort of the light part of it. But this did the trick. I just hit them on all the pillars. After making these little entrances out to where the balcony is going to be, it's going to be time to start making that balcony. In total, there's going to be 4 of them, 2 on each side, connecting all the outside areas. Now that I'm building the staircase and you can see the generator there, this will be a great time to go over the generator situation for the build. Now, Wildcard in their infinite wisdom has made a questionable choice with generators, if you ask me. They took away wires, which I do love, having the wireless capabilities on the generators. You're only allowed to have 3 of the industrial ones within range of each other, which, given that we don't have cryopods and you kind of have to have larger bases, makes it quite impossible to power your entire base. If you don't have a tech generator, you just have to sort of choose here for now where exactly you want your power to be. You're for sure going to want that to be inside of the crafting tower. And if you want AC units in your Dino Tower, you're going to want one there as well. After that, it's sort of up to you where you want to place the 3rd one. Maybe where you want lights the most. If you do plan on doing the pillar trick with lights that I've been doing, you also may want to just place a generator as you go so you can turn those lights on, so that later when you get a bigger range generator like the tech generator, you'll be able to just place the generator and it'll turn all the lights on that do exist. All right, now that the bottom part's done, we're gonna start working on the top. So we're gonna start the main building tower. And you'll see we get to build a second really cool spiral staircase like the one we did downstairs. And honestly, that was one of my favorite parts about this whole build. They're really fun to walk around and spin around. really customize this tower however you wish, but this is the way I chose to do it. You can quite comfortably house up to 6 tribe mates up here, along with a few extra boxes to put any extra tools, weapons, and supplies. Now, if you've skipped ahead to this part after laying the foundations, I don't blame you. This is going to be one of the most important rooms you're going to build because it's going to be where all the crafting supplies and storage is. I particularly like that it's tall enough to be able to house the larger machines, as well as that massive, unnecessarily large industrial forge. You could even eventually swap that out to have a replicator in there, or even potentially add extra floors above so that you could store more things. Now for inside of the crafting tower, you have a whole bunch of options of where you want to put things and how you want to arrange. These are just some suggestions of where I placed them, as well as the suggestion of how I did the storage. On a different server I built this on by hand, I actually also included a trap door behind the forge that went down into an additional storage area. So you could build something like that, and like I said earlier, you could also even extend upwards, put a ladder or staircase going up to different floors here, because there's so much vertical space. Most importantly, there's a hole in the roof so that you can drop in with an RG to be able to deliver metal and other supplies. After recording, I ended up adding some blueprint shelves, that way you would be able to store your blueprints there. And here's what the area would look like if you decided you wanted to put your tech replicator in here. Still fits, you could still get around the structures and interact in the room. Then you can move the furnace upstairs or out into the main building. Now you're also going to want somewhere to work with your dinos, and that's where the Dino Tower comes in. It features both a full tower to be able to breed dinos, a place to hatch them, as well as a frog tank underneath, so that you would be able to breed those all too important frogs for cementing paste and swamp cave. This isn't the only place that you would have to store your dinos, of course. You would also be able to use the main building. The main building is nice and big for the purpose of being able to store your larger dinos in. The only thing I didn't test if this would be able to accommodate would be gigas. I think you would have to make this structure 7 walls high to be able to do that. And honestly, I just never really have an interest in gigas to begin with. Though I didn't do that, but you of course are welcome to. Or you can make a separate area outside just for your gigas. Frogs are beautiful, frogs are essential, and that is why I made a frog pond. Now you don't really have to put frogs down here. You actually don't have to build this at all if you don't like frogs to begin with. But if you do want frogs, this will be a great place to breed them since they need to be submerged to create babies, as well as if you have a cryopod mod. I haven't tested yet, but you may even be able to fit a shark in there. It's a bit small, you might have to expand if you want to do that, so count that as untested, but please, if you test it out, feel free to let me know. And that's our build. All that's left to do is give a quick tour of everything. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the tour. If you liked the video and you want to see more, please like and subscribe. I have a lot of really cool builds planned and I look forward to sharing them with everyone. Most importantly though, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate every one of you.